Good afternoon and welcome to the very first edition of Irwinning. That's right. A brand new podcast. This is the very first time I've attempted this. Well, I've attempted it many times in my car, but never on an electronic device before. My name is Zach Irwin, and I'm going to get you through the first episode as best I can, and you can catch this at any time on YouTube and on Facebook. Now, before I can do a show, you need to know a little bit about me. I've been a lifelong sports fan and a lifelong television fan. I can watch anything from ball games to soap operas and the occasional movie. Two of my great loves in sports were, and to some degree still are, the Chargers and the Suns. I grew up a San Diego Chargers fan, more so when I lived in Arizona than I did living in Southern California. I didn't exactly catch on to watching the NFL until I lived in Chandler, Arizona by the time I was 14 years old. Later on, I moved to Mesa, and when I started living in Mesa, my Chargers were reaching the heights of their success in the early 90s. Two of my favorite Charger teams of all time were the 92 Chargers and the 94 team. The 92 team started 0-4, won the AFC West, and won a playoff game. And then the 94 team, as some of you may know, beat the heavily favored Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship game, only to get drubbed by the San Francisco 49ers 2 weeks later in Super Bowl 29. But to me, those two teams overcame any expectations of winning anything whatsoever. And that, to me, as well as the 2004 San Diego Chargers when I lived here in Atlanta, and still do to this day, that team defied odds of doing anything, going 12-4 and winning the AFC West before suffering heartbreak at the hands of my nemesis, the New York Jets. Now, I've also been a lifelong Phoenix Suns fan, and the height of my fandomness has happened twice. First time when I lived in Mesa, Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson all helped the Suns reach the NBA Finals before losing to the Chicago Bulls in 6 games. And that Father's Day of 1993 will live with me forever, and I can even still hear Marv Albert say, "Here's Paxson for 3!" Well, unfortunately, I cannot get that image out of my head, and probably never will. And then when I moved to Atlanta several years into my stay here, the Phoenix Suns reacquired Steve Nash thanks to free agency, and all he did was transform the Suns into the run-and-gun team that they were in the middle part of that decade. Steve Nash winning MVP twice. Steve Nash giving me hope as a Suns fan that the Suns could go all the way and win their first NBA championship. Well, unfortunately, as a Suns fan, I'm still waiting for that first title, but hopefully someday they will at least make the playoffs once again and get back to that championship caliber hope that I have once enjoyed before. And another low point of my fandomness, in addition to seeing the Suns struggle for the better part of the last decade, is when my San Diego Chargers decided to move to Los Angeles, and that's where they've lived and played ever since. I'll never forget the date. It was a few days before my birthday. I believe it was January 13th of 2017 when I learned of the news that the Chargers were leaving San Diego. And I posted a little video booing the decision of that team. And because of that move, they have been demoted to C-team status for me. And because of that, the new favorite team of mine in the NFL is now the Atlanta Falcons. And shortly after the Chargers moved, I enjoyed some immediate success with my new A-team. I got to see them on TV beat the Green Bay Packers to advance to Super Bowl 51, hold a 28-3 lead against the New England Patriots, and then I got to see that lead evaporate. And then unfortunately, I got to see the Patriots beat the Falcons 34-28 in overtime. So in some way, that might be the low point of my Atlanta Falcons fandom. See, I failed you there. But it does, I mean, as bad as the loss was, to me, it's better to have gotten there than to have missed the playoffs like many Falcons teams of the past have. And luckily for me, I had hope this past season when the Falcons squeaked out a 10-6 record, a road win over the LA Rams in the wild card game, and there was hope for me as a Falcons fan that they could beat the Philadelphia Eagles on the road minus starting quarterback Carson Wentz. Unfortunately, my Falcons came up short that day, too. The key for me to be a sports fan is as follows. The teams have to be based in San Diego, Phoenix, and Atlanta, or the suburbs thereof. I don't count LA as a suburb of San Diego. No way. Even though I was born in Los Angeles, I don't consider LA as my city. It's a fun place to visit, but I don't think of LA as, my city anymore. Instead, I think of San Diego as my city, or Atlanta as my city, or to some degree Phoenix as my city. I do root for other teams too. I'm also a fan of the Atlanta Braves, the Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Coyotes, the Atlanta Hawks, and I will never waver on my college A team, the Arizona State Sun Devils. That football team of 1996 gave me both highs and lows as a sports fan too. The highs just seem to get better and better with every passing game the calendar year of 1996, starting with the 19-0 beatdown against Nebraska, and then vaulting all the way to beating California to clinch a bid to the Rose Bowl. And then me getting to go to the Rose Bowl as a fan, that was probably the high point of my fandom. The low point again, starting to see a pattern here. My Sun Devils lost to Ohio State near the end of the game, and that began a 2-day-long ride home back to Arizona. Longest drive from LA to Phoenix in my life. I don't know if I could bear to watch the replay of the 1997 Rose Bowl. It would take a lot for me to do that. I can already see David Boston scoring the game-winning touchdown in the end zone. And the irony for me on him is he played for two of my favorite NFL teams in the late 90s and early 2000s, the Arizona Cardinals and the San Diego Chargers. But anyway, as I move forward with this podcast, I hope to be able to, over the coming days and weeks, I will continue to root on for my teams, the San Diego Padres, the Atlanta Braves, the Atlanta Falcons, the Arizona Cardinals, the Arizona Coyotes, and I've been starting to follow the expansion Vegas Golden Knights. That could be a historic team where that team could be the first expansion team ever to win 50 games in a season in either pro hockey or pro basketball. Well, anyway, I hear my cat Gandalf meowing at me and meowing at the door, so I'm going to sign off for now, but I hope to be able to do this with you again. I hope to be able to have fun with you all, and I hope you all have the good rest of the day, and I'll be back again real soon.